I get a ton of phone calls from students from universities actually that are doing papers or doing this and how to navigate the market and like not navigate the market, but automate it and do this and bedrooms, this. And I had somebody that I just read an article about a sports figure, and then I got a phone call, and the person was trying to, this Northwestern marketing person trying to, you'll get a kick out of this. You'll tell this story. And it's really cool. So he's like, it just so happened to coincided with what I read. And he's like, I'm trying to figure this out and trying to automate, build the systems. I said, all right, let me tell you something. He goes, all right. I go, in 1996, there was a 6'6" kid who was 190 pounds with small hands, couldn't jump that well, and had an okay shot. That was his dynamic. There was also a 6'6" kid who was a consensus first team All-American, huge hands, unbelievable jump shot, and could jump out of the gym. I said, think of that as houses. I said, which house are you going to buy?
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to buy the second house. I said, that was Kerry Kittles. Played 6 years in the pros and sucks. First kid was Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, really.
I said, the stats on Kobe Bryant sucked. It was the intangibles that made him who he was. I said, it's the house's position on the block. It's the sun it gets.
Yeah.
It's where it lays to retail. It's the schools. I said, you will never be able to automate housing. I said, because it's the intangibles that make the house, not the bedroom count.
Yeah.
It's the floor plan. And I was like, that's why you'll never work. What's the 5 Ps? Do you remember it?
Proper preparation prevents poor performance.
There you go. It doesn't matter how much money we get. If we don't close, it's no money, right? So no close is no money. I'm everything that I am because of my dad's death. And I wouldn't be as successful without his death. Welcome to the Jason Theory. This is actually year 3, which is crazy because I've never stuck to something this long. And it's the first episode, and I'm pleased to start the year off, even though it's February, but January is a throwaway year in real estate, so it doesn't count. It's an 11-month season. Joe Stacey, who has been a mentor of mine, a motivator, a lot of the stuff that you guys hear me say a lot of times originates from his mouth. So Joe, give us a little intro of yourself, and then we'll get rocking and rolling.
Well, thanks. Well, first of all, I didn't really realize I was that much of an influence of putting those words in your mouth.
See, I was actually listening to your phone call, and I was getting inspired again. And we'll get into that.
Yeah, so my name is Joe Stacey. I'm the General Growth Manager for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Chicago. This is crazy, 36 year in real estate.
That's a lot.
I mean, I started right out of college at the age of 22.
Did they have calculators back then?
Yeah, no, we had beepers.
Abacus.
But so it's the only business I've ever been in, and it's rewarded me greatly, and I'm just passionate about it because I've gone from a brand new agent to the top of the top, and now an executive of a company, and I've done it all, really.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the real interesting part, and what we really want to dive into, which I'm excited about. For people that are new agents, old agents, people that want to get into sales, or people that just can't sometimes get out of bed and motivate themselves, I think the lessons you teach could either help you sell real estate or as my science teacher used to say, make a widget, right?
Yeah, really. Real estate's a widget. I mean, we're selling houses. We're finding people's needs, and we're finding them a solution to that. But it's no different if you were selling screws or bolts or, it's sales.
Yeah, and the process of that sales is all the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's really connecting with people, building people's, getting people's trust and understanding what their needs are and just finding a solution to people's needs. That's really what we do.
When you started in real estate 36 years ago, what do you think about yourself that matched well with sales and real estate that has you to where you are today? Are there certain attributes that you can be honest with yourself and say, this is why I did well and this is why I did good?
I think remembering back that far, I remember this vividly. I went in with the attitude that this was going to be my career.
Okay.
I wasn't trying real estate. I decided that my parents' neighbor was a real estate agent. And, I'd say back then he was maybe a $2 million agent or something like that, which was an average agent, I would say. And I thought, wow,
Well, houses back then were $50,000.
Yeah, I suppose at that point. Hey, I'm not that old. But so I thought, wow, if he can do that, and I could do a lot better than that. And I looked at the real estate industry as a whole and thought, wow, there's a lot of people that are just kind of doing it as a whatever, and I can escalate or elevate my level of service, and I can make this a career. And so I went in with a long-term attitude. Like every decision I made a decision for the long term, not for the short term. In other words, like sometimes you'd find somebody, you're working with a client.
Yeah, we're going to stick with that. We're going to get off script and stick with what you just said, because I think it's really important. So
You want me to?
no, stay with,
Yeah.
continue.
Someone you maybe have worked with somebody, and then they're like, you know what, they're just not really, for whatever reason, ready to buy right now, or and they need to take another year. And you're like, you know what? Yeah, take that year, save more money, pay down your debt, whatever it is. That's what at the end of the day, we represent clients. And when you represent someone, you're representing their best interests, not yours. And sometimes that means you need to do what's better for them, and that may not serve your interests today. But if you go in with that mentality and you treat people the way you would want to be treated, and you do what's right for them, and you work your butt off, and you just provide great service, business is not that hard.
It isn't. What the crux of all that is that looking at the long-term solution and not the short-term fix. I mean, now that you're training and you have all these agents underneath you, you see them and you hear their stories and you're talking to them and you're in WAM meetings and you're pumping them up. How hard is it to get people that are coming up now away from that short-term mentality, considering that everything is short-term now? Everything is like, I'm texting you, I need your response in 30 seconds. I don't care what you're doing. Like, how do you focus in on that? Because if you're talking about being a contrarian right now in people's mentality, and contrarians always make the most money. Yeah. But a contrarian attitude would be like, I'm here for the long haul, and I know that everything takes time, versus like, I need now.
Yeah. It's you're
battling a completely different generation.
It is. I think the way coaching agents today is getting them, as you know, I'm really big on the pipeline.
Yes.
And the 12-week year, chunking your year into 12 weeks, and getting focused on lead measures that are predictive of you getting to your lag measures. Sales is a lag.
Yes.
It takes time to sell someone and close and put money in your pocket. So you can't focus on that. You focus on the lead measures that are predictive of you getting to that lag. And so I think that pipeline system that I coach, it helps people have a long-term mentality, because they know if they want to do $5 million in business, they need to have a $12.5, $13 million pipeline. And so where's their pipeline today? And they're building towards that, knowing that if they get their pipeline up to that level, they're going to do $5 million in business. So it just kind of gets them more focused. Because I think one of the things is there's too many distractions right now. There's too many distractions in the world, and social media, the news, people.
Yeah.
And so it's like getting away from those smoke screens and those distractions and focusing on the key things that make the biggest difference. Because we only have so much time in a day. It's what we do with our time, or what we prioritize with our time, truly is a result of what we get out. And if you can focus on those key lead measure activities that if you did them. Listen, if I wanted to lose weight, right? If I want to lose weight, I can't just step on a scale every day and hope I lost weight. That's just not a plan. And so if I want to lose weight, I'm going to focus on lead measures that are going to be predictive of that. Calories in, calories out.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yes.
My wife will tell you, for some women, there's other things that come into play, but for the most part, it is calories out.
Yeah.
And so as in here tracking, like people don't track. Like this watch, it tracks everything. I could tell you how many hours I sleep a day, what's my stress level, my heart rate, all that stuff. We need to track the key measures that are predictive of us getting to where we want to go. And I think that's what the pipeline system gets agents focused on, those key things. And it helps them start to get a sense of predictability of this business.
There is some short term in that too, right? Like as you're building your pipeline, you're not cashing out. So you've got that short-term fix. I put this name down. I put this name down. I put this name down.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if you're not cashing out and you're having a hard time in the long-term gain, all these little short-term fixes, it's how I stay happy.
Yeah. Because
I stay happy by writing, I talked to this person, that conversation went well.
great. We're going to start looking. Oh, there's a prospect. Yeah, it's short term. So isn't that funny? So like it used to be, I remember when I took over an office in the western suburbs like 6 years ago, and I had a seasoned agent, had been in the business 25 years, and I got him on this pipeline system. And finally one day he said, and he was just kind of this stodgy guy, he liked to complain about stuff. And he said, you know what? I used to get excited when I sold houses. Now I get excited when I add someone to my pipeline.
Yeah.
Because he knows if he adds two and a half people to his pipeline, that's going to equate to one sale.
Yeah.
And see, this business is very unpredictable. And that's what most agents struggle with, the unpredictability of it. So when you put them into a system where if you do these certain things, this is how you make this business predictable.
Yeah.
And then to what level do you want to get the business to? Then you just need to increase your activities to get your pipeline to that level to make it more predictable. And that's really what's cool about it.
It is. I mean, that's what keeps me engaged. Like whenever I'm having like a tough month, I can look at my pipeline and be like, and then like, so I have the same one that you gave me, whatever, 3 years ago. I've altered a little bit.
Yeah.
But I have all of my years on the same, not the same sheet, but the tab. So like, if I'm having a bad month or let's say I lost out on a listing, I can see where I am in the pipeline. And then I can go back to last year, 21, 20. And I can look at my pipeline then and what I closed and be like, it's okay. I was in the same spot and it all works out.
That's right.
It all works
So you don't
out.
panic because
I don't panic.
you don't, because it's predictable.
Yeah, and I just get more focused. And I am definitely a lot more mentally stable. You can ask my wife. I don't have like those crying shower moments because I'm not, the pipeline stops me from doing this to this to this to this. I'm like, it's all going to work out at the end.
Hey, listen, I never had that system when I was selling.
Yeah.
And I will never forget, you just talked about this is your first podcast this year. I used to wake up like January 1st and hyperventilate in a paper bag because I was like, I just climbed a mountain and sold 60 houses this year. And now I'm at 0.
Yeah.
And so there was like this up and down. But now it's like when you finish the year and it's January 1st, you're not at 0. Your pipeline's still here.
Yeah.
Your sales are at 0, but your pipeline's still there.
Which is really nice. Like when I go into, it's just because the pipeline moves.
Yeah.
Right. So when it moves into the next year, I'm like, okay, I got 17 million already in the pipeline.
Yeah.
If nothing else happens, I'm going to have a good year.
I will tell you,
Then I'm like, let's just add to it.
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I'll never forget that flight home from Mexico from my best of the best trip. And you were freaked, you and I were sitting across the aisle and you were freaked out like, oh my God, I'm dead in the water and all that stuff. And we started talking about it. It turned into an impromptu coaching session.
Yeah,
but you
it was
didn't
great.
even realize it. But and it was like, what were you going to do? You said you were going to do open houses. Now for the newer agents that are out there, you got to do open houses, right? And some people really crush open houses and you do well with them, but it's not your highest and best use. And so we sat there and talked about it. I'm like, really, Jason? Like, I don't know, like, couldn't you just pick 1 or 2 great clients who are probably great referrers of business or some of your developers, go take them to lunch, go take them for a beer and spend some time with them. You'll get more business from that. Now, again, newer agents maybe don't have that ability, but you have that ability. And so you're like, okay. Like the next week you called me, you're like, dude, it was like, I forget, it was like 8:30 in the morning. You're like, dude, I've been on the phone since we talked. I've picked up 8 new clients and you were all jacked up.
Yeah.
Like, see, so you had this like paranoia moment where you thought you're dead in the water. You just went back to the
And what I know now is if I still do that,
Yeah.
I've been doing it now, 2 years, I know that it's predictable. I know what's going to happen from it. And it continues to happen from it. And I will tell you, after I made that phone call with you, I don't know if I told you, but then I called my financial advisor I've been friends with since my 20s. I mean, the times we've had. And I said to him the same thing. And he looked at me, and it was really interesting. And this will be probably a snippet that we use on social media. He said to me, he goes, I haven't reached out or prospected anyone in 10 years. And this is one of the biggest guys ever.
Yeah.
He's like, I just call my clients.
Yeah.
He's like, once you get that client base, it's like, what are you doing, Jason? You're running
Yeah.
around like a lunatic.
That's right.
He's like, what do you always say? They're your best.
Because they're the people that know you, love you,
Yeah.
want to support you. They want to be successful and they want to refer their friends and family and coworkers to you. So like, as an industry, we don't stay in touch with our people enough. I mean, it's called the
I
loyalty.
think you could say that about a lot of sales.
Yeah, that's probably true. It's called the loyalty gap. And so like, listen, if the last time someone's talked to us is when we collected a $20,000 commission check, that's not good. Like we need to stay in touch with people, and we got to check in and make sure they're doing okay. And how can we support them? Not just in sales, but like if they're going to remodel their kitchen, hey, let me come by and give you some tips. I mean, your podcasts and all those videos that you do on housing and all the construction and all that stuff, that's invaluable information. So like
and I love doing it. I'm like, people don't know.
Of course you do. And it comes through. Your passion comes through in it. But like the point is, if I have a client who's going to go remodel their kitchen, I want to go give them some advice. Like, what's the current colors and trends, and give them some. But they're like, wow, that's really, I didn't think of that. Like that's value also. So our value to our clients is not just selling; it's helping them out in many other different aspects of their life, and just being there for them when they need it.
It's real interesting too because, being that I went to school in California, then I came here and I went to boarding school for high school. I've got a friend base here, but it's not a huge friend base just because I was always transient. And like all these phone calls before this too, like I really started making the phone calls, but I always had phone calls, this and that. I mean, the amount of weddings that I've stood up or been invited to, like these people that I call, like I make more of an effort to call everyone, even people that I just don't like, sometimes you don't think people like you, and then you make a call, and it's like, you ever had that?
Yeah,
like, this person hates me.
It gets in our head.
Yeah. I go, they looked at me this way, they hate me, but I'll make them a call, and it's, blah, 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 blah. Oh, by the way, here's a friend.
Yeah.
But a lot of my friend base now, it's literally my clients.
Yeah.
And how great. I had this discussion with the top agent, and I just looked at him, and I'm not saying I felt sorry for him, but I just was like, man, I would never want to do that for a living. He's just like, I hate everybody I work with. I hate this. I hate it's terrible. And I said, man, life is too, like, how it came up? He had a person that he hated working with. And I'm like, why don't you just fire him?
Yeah.
He's like, I won't fire anybody. He's like, I want the numbers.
Yeah.
And I said, but really? And this is a lot of business. He doesn't need like this. And I said to him, I said, one of the greatest things about this job is that I work with only people that I fucking love to work with.
Yep.
And it makes the job great. And like I can't imagine being in a situation where I just don't like anyone that I'm working for, this or that, and it becomes
it's hell.
It's hell. But I
got to tell you, for me, that's like didn't get out. That's time to get out. Like if you in this business, if you're not passionate about helping people and you don't care about, like, you care about your clients so much, right? And that's what it's really all about. You connect, because listen, you're not just selling people's houses. You're selling people, you're creating life. Like I used to do my client event.
People don't believe that. People think that. We really do.
I know. People create these amazing lives. So we, I did my client event every year, and I'll never forget this one time. Sometimes I get a little emotional talking about it, because that's the emotion, like when you're connected with people that much. And it was the Muppet movie. I was showing the Muppet. Okay. I had 300 clients in the theater. It was only for my clients, right? And, get the movie going, say some words to them. We get the movie going. And then about halfway through the movie, I come up through the tunnel to kind of see everybody. And Kermit the Frog's sitting on the log singing to Miss Piggy, The Rainbow Connection, which is always one of my favorite songs. And it's, how fitting was that? Like, we had just gone through a tough time. This was probably 2009, 2010. So think about that market.
Yeah.
I mean, I was sitting across the table when people were losing their houses and crying. And that was a horrible, people think these market stuff, that was a tough market.
Yeah.
And so here now we're in December, all these people, it's the holidays. And I come up through there and I hear Kermit singing to Miss Piggy. And I came, like those big theaters, you come up and I look up and there's 300 people there with the light of the movie flashing on their faces, with little kids smiling and parents smiling. And it was like, I will go to my grave with this memory. It was just like, wow, okay, this is what we do. We help people. Like some of these people, I sold houses when they weren't even married. Now they're married, they have kids, and they're in this house that they have these life memories. That's what this job is. We're not selling houses. We're selling people a life, in this life, their most cherished possession is their house, really.
I know, it's really cool.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
the best thing about it.
So when you can connect on that level, this isn't a job. You're just serving people who have a need. And then if you could do that, then this is where this job gets. And then if you could do it at the level that you want to do it at, and you make the money that you want, like that's where this is. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because I've been able to do that for so many years in my life, and I've seen it. And now if I could take that knowledge and wisdom and all that, and instill it upon hundreds of other agents like you and others. Like when I'm done, and I walk away, I'm like, okay, I left something.
A legacy.
I left a legacy, not serving me, serving others.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing. Like we need to pay things forward. You have to connect, you have to be gracious and have gratitude. And when you can leave that legacy and pass it forward, and then hopefully I can inspire them to do the same down the road. So when I'm done, I'm done. And it's just like, I did everything I can do and I'm done,
The gratitude part's tough. That was my New Year's resolution. It's just to like every day is somehow say to myself what I'm grateful for. And I think that's like the one thing I'm trying to press on my kids is gratitude. And I tell them, I go, they come home and whenever they have a bad day, I'm like, you can't have a bad day.
Yeah.
I go, I'm going to go through 10 things right now that you have that no one else has.
Yeah.
And I said, and then you tell me if you had a bad day.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to get grateful. Because when you're grateful, which was like, it was a New Year's resolution, but something I started last year. It's just like, I'm going to continuously be grateful. When someone is a jerk to me or I'm having the worst day ever, or someone poo-poos on me, I'm just going to be grateful for everything else. And all of a sudden that item just goes,
yeah, it's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant because I'm grateful for so much other stuff. And if people take a moment, I think it was Tony Robbins, like watching on Instagram, it was like a YouTube short. It's like every day, just take a moment in the morning to be grateful for what you're like, truly grateful.
Yeah.
He's like, you can't be mad.
Have you seen the Brendan Burchard journal?
No.
Never. I think it's Brendan Burchard. I forget what the journal's called, but if you can Google it, at the very top, it says like, if you look at it in the morning, it's going to say like, there's 3 people I want to influence today or touch today. So like you start your day with intention. So you have intentionality. And then at the end of the day, ideally, you want to go back and reflect on your day. Did you touch those people? But also then like there's a space there to write things down that you're grateful for. So it's like setting positive intentions for what you want to get out of your day and then spending some time reflecting back. Did I do all the things I wanted to do? What am I grateful for? There's so many things to be grateful for.
You stay so happy all day.
Yeah.
Like it's like, it's such a game changer. You're just like, you don't get emotional. You don't have up and downs. You're just like, listen, this is, especially in this business where people are pounding on you sometimes, it's just like, okay, it'll all work out.
I got to tell you, I mean, my coaching program, that Transform program that I built for the company, I mean, I started it with the mindset.
Yeah.
And it's because people are like, really? We read a book there's a book called Eat, Move, Sleep. If you never heard of it.
Eat, Move, Sleep.
Eat, Move, Sleep. It's an awesome book.
Okay.
It's on audiobook or whatever. But it's like, people are like, really? You're bringing me into a real estate coaching program and you're going to have me read a book about eating, moving, and sleeping? Yeah. Because if you eat better, if you exercise more and you sleep more, most people don't sleep enough, you'll have more energy. Well, when you have more energy, you could probably sell more.
So like, I feel like if I say that out loud, people like feel like we're shaming people. But I think if you don't eat right, you don't exercise, and you don't sleep, you have no chance of being successful. And I truly believe that.
Well, listen, if you're
in a fog,
if your battery's at 50% capacity, you're swimming upstream.
I don't think people realize how bad shitty food is for you too.
But it's all of it. But sleep is critical.
Yeah, I sleep like 8.5, 9 hours.
Yeah, that's right. I sleep at least 8 hours a day on average. And I mean, there's periods where I maybe go down a little bit because I just got going on or whatever. But at the end of the day, sleep is critical. It's also like, if you don't sleep, that's where illness comes in and sickness and all that stuff. So like sleep is really critical. Eating and exercise is really critical. And having routines, like healthy routines and stuff, that's just critical. So we start the coaching program the first 2 weeks talking about all that. That's just all about eat, move, sleep. And many of the agents set intentions on one of those areas that they're going to improve on. And then we also talk about the pipeline because that's critical too. But at the end of the day, it starts with your mindset. If you're negative, if you're stressed out, if you're just angry, which there are some people, that comes out that's toxin, that's poison. And people sense that.
Like nonverbal communication. 90% of sales is nonverbal, and it's all how you project.
That's it. So if your mindset's not right, it really doesn't matter what your skills are and what your actions are.
See, I think that, and actually, when you were in the room coaching people, I was like, should I get on because I know that you're into fitness. I'm like, should we just get on the fact that if you're not into fitness, you're not going to be successful?
I might bring
And I'm
something.
like, oh
That's
man,
not
if I
always-
say that, I'm gonna get yelled at. But I truly, and also in sales, if you don't have the discipline to be disciplined to yourself,
Yeah, that's
it
right.
starts with that.
Yeah.
You have to discipline yourself.
Yep.
Because when it comes to saying, hey, I need to go to the gym, or just, hey, I'm gonna walk the dog, but I'm gonna walk the dog for 45 minutes a day. Your dog will love that.
Yeah.
Your dog does not get tired.
I sometimes say people will ask me like, when you're in, or let's say if I was recruiting, I was, what's the one thing you're looking for in an agent? I say motivation, like self motivation. I can't teach that.
So that was my question. You can't, can you?
No, I don't believe you can.
I
I
don't
mean,
think
you
so
can
either.
learn it. If you could eventually learn it. You can learn it through being on, having disciplines and going through programs and stuff like that. You can try to
But
learn
where
it.
do you learn that? Is it innate? I'm like,
It can be. I mean, like
it's a tease game with my kids. Like
Yeah.
a little bit of humiliation is the wrong word, but like a little bit of like this, and then hey, you did good there. Hey, how about this?
Yeah.
How about like it's a game. It's a real tricky game of motivating, but keeping positive.
Yeah, I think I learned my work ethic from my parents. Like my dad was a police officer, so didn't make a lot of money, but and then my mom was a secretary, and they
So it's example.
Huh?
It's growing up with an example.
Yeah, growing up with an example, but they didn't. But they also came from when they were little. They didn't have money, right? My mom and uncle, they were really poor and all that, and so my mom wanted to have us to have a nicer lifestyle. She wanted us to have Nike shoes and a polo shirt and all that. So she felt like that was important to her. And so they worked like 2 or 3. My dad would work like 8 hours, sleep for 2 hours, go work another job. He wallpapered, he painted, he worked really hard. I'll never forget, like, just growing up watching him, man. He was dead tired, but he would go to work and he had to make more money. And so I kind of learned that work ethic from my dad. And fortunately, I chose a career path I was able to be successful in. I was able to make.
You also picked a business that whatever you put in, it's coming back at you.
It's totally.
Which is not.
I mean, listen.
Which is not. Which is not. Which is not corporate.
This is. I started in the fall of '88, so '89 was a recession. Interest rates were 13, 14%. Oh, everybody talking about higher interest rates, right? I started real estate with like 13% interest rates. But I took every single opportunity. We used to have. This was before voicemails, by the way. They would have. People would call the office, and then you would have someone answering the phone and taking a note and say, hey, Jason, you'd come in the morning and you had some notes in there. Hey, Jason, so-and-so called you, and there'd be a note there. Well, the agents could do floor time.
I did floor every pop.
I did. So people were like, back then our offices used to be open until 9 o'clock on Fridays. So people would 6 to 9 floor time. No one wanted it. I took it every time because I'm like, you know what? I'm trying to build a business. And even if one person calls, that's one more person I don't have today. Like, I think the new agents.
Who's doing that now?
I don't know. I mean,
They should be.
Well, listen.
Well, that mentality.
But I think, listen, I just came from our new agent training program. We got agents door knocking, brand new agents to the business. We're coaching them, door knocking at open houses and door knocking and prospecting in neighborhoods looking for inventory. Like these are brand new agents.
And they're doing it.
They're doing it. Dude, they're picking them. They're doing open houses and they're picking up 3 or 4 clients and we're teaching them how to turn those into appointments, not just getting names and phone numbers. We're coaching them on scripts and all that stuff. They're coming away with every week picking up 2 new clients, brand new to the business. It's awesome. It's so motivating. It's great. So I guess who's doing it? The ones who are getting in front of people who are coaching them how to do it and getting them to focus on the right things. That's what it comes down to. And everybody's different. Like, it's just focusing on the things that you can do well and are the things that are going to predictively move your needle towards so like going back to the weight analogy, I know, I could eat a pizza, but then I got to run 10 miles or 15 miles. Otherwise it's not going to end well when
So when you're talking to these new agents and you're saying, what happens if they're great at one thing, but something else they're not great at, but they're both things that are critical?
Yeah.
How do you coach them? Do you say, hey, listen, you really can't do this, but you're great at this. Let's just take this to 150%.
Yeah.
Or do you say, hey, keep that at 100, but we really you have to face your fear and do this.
Yeah. And so some of it is like,
Because that's what a new agent will ask. Like,
yeah. So whatever that thing is, you have to kind of coach them and let them kind of self-discover. Like
I could cold call people, but I can't knock on a door.
Yeah.
And I get in front of a door and it's like I got marbles in my mouth. But I pick up the phone, and this person may want to marry me when I'm done.
Well, so here's the question: is if that's all you do, is that enough to get you to the business that you need to go to? If it's not, then that's the one thing.
Okay,
you
so
should
that's
keep
that's
doing.
the answer.
What's the next thing?
Okay.
So, like I said, listen. If there was only one thing you did, Jason, I said, listen. If I told you you need to get a new buyer or a new seller, like at the end of the day, if you end the day and you don't get in front of a new client, a new buyer, a new seller, or a renter, if you're working with renters, you've not grown your business. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. So you have to look at, okay, what did I do to try to get in front of a new buyer and a new seller? And is that going to, if I keep doing it, is it going to work? If not, then why am I doing it? It's insanity.
Yeah.
Let me find something
And that's
else.
the 12 weeks.
So here's what I would say. If I told you, Jason, so you agree, like if you're not in front of a new buyer or new seller, you're not growing your business.
Yeah.
So if I said to you, you need to go find a new buyer or new seller, you've got 24 hours. Jason, I'm going to be back sitting here at this table 24 hours from today. You've got to go find a new buyer or new seller. Your life is dependent upon it. Go.
I'm making 500 phone calls.
You're making 500 phone calls. There you go. So like, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I like that.
You
That's a
follow
good
me?
one, yeah.
So now the thing is if the 500 phone calls, now let's move that to a week's time. Let's just say you've got it for a week and you need to get 3 new clients for your level, whatever it is. So is that 500 phone calls enough? If not, then do those 500 phone calls. Then what's the second next thing? If you did that, it would give you your highest.
And not to really dive into it, but that's the next task.
That's the next
on a
task.
12-week.
So that's the next
12-week
task.
year.
And if those 2 tasks are enough to grow your business, then that's all
So
you
be
need
it.
to go at. So there's one thing though you did say that I want to talk about. There's one, I don't want to say trait, but there's one thing that is, I think, really important that you can't teach is if you don't have that personality to connect with people, people have to like being around you and they have to connect with you.
Well, could you learn that in the mindset? Could you like go from a squirrely person because I think people that can connect, I think they're just happy people.
Yeah, I would say.
And I'm not happy, but there's something like
I have an energy,
yeah, I just don't care what I say.
Yeah. I think it's more about that energy that you produce. Like people want to be around energy, right?
Yeah.
And if you have somebody that's just like drab and just not really personable, and they could be the smartest person, they could be the best agent in the world, you're like, I want to sleep talking to this person. Right?
Yeah.
That's really tough. Like you need to have a personality and you need to be able to connect with people and people need to trust. So there's
I think with that, like I'm thinking about myself because I can make friends in a jail, but I'm thinking I was extremely quiet till I was a sophomore in high school. And then I had certain things that happened to me as a sophomore that I started to gain confidence. And as I gained confidence in myself, I gained confidence in my voice. Mm-hmm. Now, if you threw me in a development and I knew nothing about housing, I would find a corner, turn around, and you wouldn't see my face. Yeah. So I also think it's the ability to understand what you're selling.
For sure.
That gets you confident and allows you to be who you are because you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I like a lot of times, and there are people that are drabs that are just like, oh my God, this person's like talking to paint dry. But I think confidence and mindset and gratitude and just like, hey, this is what I feel. This is what I'm going to tell you. And if you don't like me and you don't like my opinions, I'm okay with that. It's okay not to like everything.
For sure.
Like.
And I think staying rooted to the gratitude and to being humble and being confident. There's a difference between confidence and cockiness or arrogance. Like there's a fine line there.
Yeah.
Like I'm very confident. And like if you've ever heard my listing dialogue and all that, like I'm really confident, but I don't believe I crossed the line of being cocky or arrogant. You know, the arrogance is like, oh, I'm the best. Why would you talk to anybody else? But no, I'm really good at what I do. You know, and I'm better than everybody. But that's okay to be. So you have to be confident in yourself, and that comes from experience, and that comes from the more deals that.
That's the reps.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. We were role playing with some of the agents this morning, and one of the agents had a buyer a first-time buyer, and was looking at the mortgage information. And I said, "Okay, how did you end it?" She goes, "Well, I got their information. I'm going to send them." I go, "Why didn't you just book an appointment with them?" They were asking questions. they're asking you questions like they're obviously interested. Just pull your phone out and book an appointment with them. Say, obviously you're asking a lot of questions and you're interested in this market. I've got a lot of information that I think you would find helpful to help you make a better decision. Let's just go have coffee and let's talk about it.
Yeah, I'll bring stuff to show you.
Yeah. So now, that's so critical. So like, be confident in that because you're serving people.
And people don't want to say that because they think they're going to turn around and be like, no, I don't want to be with you.
Yeah.
I don't want to see you.
Well, agents don't want to be pushy. They don't want to be pushy, but at the end of the day, if I have something that you don't have, if you're a consumer, and I have knowledge and information and tools that you don't have, there's value in that.
Yeah.
And so you'd be willing to give me your time for that value.
Yeah.
But if you don't have any value, then why would you give me your time?
Yeah.
So, and that's the critical part. So you need to know.
Well, people don't think they have value.
Yeah.
A lot of new agents are like, do I have that value?
Yeah, and that's sad. And so that comes from coaching and that comes from training and tools and the companies that have cool tools and stuff like that. So it's critical,
Yeah. All right, let's take a little bit of a pivot and let's talk about your centers on this. We're not going to dive into it too hard. We're going to dive into it, but kind of like in a surface area. The 12-week year.
Yeah.
So give us just an overview of what the 12-week year is.
Yeah. So I will do that. And I'll just give you another book as reference. There's a book called The 4 Disciplines of Execution.
Okay.
It's written by one of the Coveys. It's also referred to as 4DX.
Okay.
And there's, in that book, which is the original book that we kind of created the pipeline on.
Okay.
And there's 4 disciplines in the book, 4 disciplines of execution.
Yes.
The first one is setting goals. Real estate agents as a whole don't set goals. I mean, they might have a goal and they say, okay, I want to do around 10 million. That's not a goal. How much do you want to do? Around 10 million? No. How much?
No.
Specific, measurable. Goals should be SMART. Specific, measurable, achievable, relative to where you're at, and timely. That's the acronym around goals. So you have to have goals, and the key is no more than 3 goals.
Okay.
If you have more than 3 goals, research shows you won't get those goals done. And 1 goal is better than 2, 2 goals is better than 3. Does that make sense?
It's like a martini.
It's like a martini. That's right.
Don't fucking drink more than 3.
After the 3rd martini, it doesn't
You're
end
done.
very well. Right. Exactly. So, or I like to say Manhattans in my book.
Okay.
So, like 1 Manhattan, I'm good. 2 Manhattans, I'm good. 3, I'm like slurring my words.
Yeah.
So, so that's the first discipline is setting goals.
Okay.
The next discipline is focusing on lead measures and lag measures.
Okay.
That's really critical. The third thing is having.
When you say lead measures and lag measures, are those your tasks to you, or those?
The lag measure would be the goal.
Okay.
Typically.
Okay.
And the lead measure would be the tactics or the activities.
Tactics.
And I'll wrap it back to the 12-week year, but these are still some basic.
Because I remember when I took this a couple times, I think the biggest mistake people have, and I still hear it like on everything, is the difference between a task and a goal.
Some of their tactics. They set a goal as really what's a tactic.
It's a tactic. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll wrap it back to that. So the third thing is having a compelling scoreboard. You have to have a scoreboard. And the fourth thing is a cadence of accountability. And that's that wham call you heard me with, right? So now the 12-week year is very similar. It's setting goals, and again, no more than 3. That's your lag measure. The difference with the 12-week year is it's rather than having an annual goal, you're setting it as a 12-week year goal. And that's your 12-week year goal. So, because really, honestly, do you know where the market's going to be in September or October?
I think a year-long goal is ridiculous.
It is. Now, as an agent...
financially, whatever, but like how you get there and...
Right.
I mean...
You might start out and say, hey, I want to do 20 million this year. Okay, great. How much of... Because real estate's not linear. So how much of the 20 million are you going to get chunked out in the next 12 weeks? That's how you have to look at it. And so the first thing is setting goals, no more than 3, and then finding the tactics that are, again, the critically few, those are important words. What are the critically few activities or tactics that if you did them, they would predictively get you to your goal? So going back to that conversation we had earlier, your goal is to get 20 new clients in the next 12 weeks. What's your first tactic? You're going to go make calls. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how many calls? So that you just, I'm going to make calls. I'm going to make more calls. No, specific. So I'm going to, and now here's the next thing. Is it calls or conversations? Because I can make 10 phone calls and not talk to anybody and have no real estate conversations. Is that effective?
No.
So a better tactic is to have 10 conversations about real estate. I might need to call 20 people to have 10 conversations.
Yes.
And so you start to figure that out. So the next thing is, okay, Jason, if that's your first go-to, is that enough to get you 20 new clients? No. What would be the next thing then? What would you do next?
I'd send out canceled letters.
Send out canceled letters because that's worked for you, right?
Yep.
How many canceled letters are you going to send out?
As many as I can every day.
That's not good enough.
Whatever is canceled. Sometimes it's 1 or 2.
But listen, can I go? Maybe if you're staying within a certain
Boundary. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it's sending out a canceled letter to every single person each week or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's the next one. Is that enough? No. What's the third thing?
Yeah.
And then at whatever point when you get there, it's like, is that enough? Yeah, if I did those things, if I got that done every single week, those 3 or 4 things, that should be enough to get me to my goal. Okay, that's what you think. That's your playbook. We just watched the Super Bowl yesterday, right? That's your playbook. Now you got to go execute the playbook. That's the next key. And most agents don't. Most agents know what they need to do. They don't execute what they need.
How do you get them? How do you get them to execute when, like, how do you stay patient and get them to execute when you know that they're not executing? And at one point, are you just like, forget it?
Well,
That was my one main question like a week ago. Like, at what point do you just say, you know what, you're an idiot. It's not happening.
Yeah. Well, I think,
and sometimes telling somebody that this is not the job for you is the best.
If it's someone on your team, but listen.
No, I mean, like, you see 1,000 people. I mean, there's got to be like, you know, personalities.
Yeah.
You're like, this person's just not executing.
Well, here's the thing. In my role, I'm serving agents that are with our company and if we're under other managers. Like, it's not my business, it's theirs. I'm giving them all the things that they need to know. And if it is on them to go do it, I can't make them do it. You can't make people do it. They got to want to do it. And then at the end of the day, time will serve.
And when they don't want to do it, what are some tactics to get them to do it?
Well,
are there
holding them more accountable. So, like, if you said, okay, let's just go back to
embarrass them in front of their group.
Let's just go back to your tactic of making calls. So, how many calls you're going to make? You want to have 20 conversations this week.
I make 5 calls a day.
Okay. So, but let's say you were struggling and you weren't getting the 5 calls in, and I'd say, so then if we sat down,
But you got to have clients, like you said before, from the beginning.
Yeah.
I have the clients to call.
So with the 12-week year, once you set that playbook, now you put your first week plan in place. Okay. And so now you're going to say, I'm going to have 20 conversations. I'm going to send 50 for sale by owner letters out, whatever it is. And then you're going to track your results. When you come back, how did you do? How many tactics did you have? How many did you complete? If you do 85% of your tactics, generally that should be, you don't have to be 100% perfect. If you did 85% of your tactics, it should be enough to get to your goal. Now, at the end of the day, if let's say you executed 85 or 90% of your plan and you didn't move the needle towards your goal, you didn't pick up any new clients. Okay. Well, it's not an execution problem. It's maybe a plan problem.
It's a plan. Your tactics suck.
Maybe it's not the right tactics, or maybe do you need to increase the number of those tactics?
And people don't change their tactics.
But see, that's it. So it'd be like, Jason, if go back to the football analogy, let's go back to week 1 and we have one plan and we go and we lose 42-0. Well, I'd be an idiot to go back with the same plan next week. I'd have to change the plan.
Yeah.
So like, that's the key. So you have 12 weeks to figure it out. So you go execute your plan week 1, and the key is executing it, because if you don't execute your plan, let's say you do 60% of your tactics.
You don't know if it would work.
How do you know if it's a good plan?
Yeah.
You didn't execute it.
Yeah.
So that's the first critical thing. If you didn't execute it, then I'm going to have a conversation. Why not? Why did you not get the critically few things you said? If you did them, they would predictively get you to your goal. Why didn't you do them? Well, I was busy. My mother-in-law came into town. I was blah, 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 blah. Those are excuses in my world. Those are stories. Those are excuses. Those are people who are interested, not committed.
That's my favorite line.
When you're committed, those things still come up. You get around it because you said, I'm going to get 20 sales in the next 12 weeks.
So let me just, this is like my favorite Joe Stacey line. Everybody's fucking interested. I'm interested in a Lamborghini. I'm interested in a 6-pack.
Yeah.
I'm interested in dunking a basketball again, but am I committed to those things?
Yeah.
People, there's such a
It
difference.
is.
Anyways, go on. I just love it.
Critical.
Are you interested or are you committed? And you got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah. Look in
No
the mirror.
one's honest with themselves.
Look in the mirror. So when I'm coaching an agent and I say, okay, how'd you do this week? I got 60% of my tactics done. Okay, well, you know who has the answer to that problem? Look in the mirror. Mm-hmm. It's you. You didn't execute your plan.
No one wants to blame themselves.
No one wants to blame themselves. So, but the accountable ones be like, listen, you can learn that from that though. So now, if you truly are committed, I work with you to say, okay, Jason, so your number 1 tactic was to get 20 calls. So you didn't get those done. Okay. So let's do this. How many calls do you think you can make a day? 5? Okay, great. When are you going to make the calls? Let's use the principle of time blocking and put a time in your calendar to make those calls. I want you to tell me, send me a text message, Jason, and tell me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, what blocks of time are you going to make those phone calls?
Yeah.
Now you tell me 9 to 10 on Monday. Now as a coach, I could then schedule at 10:30 to ping you to say, hey, Jason, did you get your calls in from 9 to 10? And if so, how did it go? That's accountability. That's a coach trying to hold you accountable. But at the end of the day,
you got to do it.
You got to do it. And then, like, if you're paying me to do that, well, I'll just keep getting paid and you can keep underperforming. But otherwise, like, if I'm giving you my time and you're not listening and you're not doing that, I might have a conversation. You know what, Jason, I don't think I can help you.
I got to give my time to somebody who can appreciate it.
Yeah, you can't help yourself.
Yeah.
I'm trying, you see that?
Yeah.
So, like, you have to execute the plan. If you execute the plan and it's not working, then you work with them to say, okay, well then let's try something different. What's one more thing you could do? Or what one thing are you doing that's not getting any traction? Let's drop that off and let's add something else. So it's that cadence of accountability, of executing your plan. Did it work? If it did, keep doing it. Like that was, listen, I was on a call with 12 mortgage consultants from our company, Prosperous. They're nailing it. Mike's got them so laser focused on the tactics, and they are all, almost every one of them, they just finished their 5th week of their 12-week year plan, which is 41.7% of the way towards their plan. Follow that?
Yeah.
Many of them were over 42% towards their goal. They want to get 20 new customers. Many of them they had 10 or 12 customers. They're ahead of their goal. You don't want to be chasing your goal.
Yeah. You know what seems to me too is that, like, and this may just be my personality, it just seems like all these tasks, it's like, you have to do them.
Yeah.
But writing them down in a book and scratching them off or keeping yourself or having your pipeline, your spreadsheets, it just keeps you accountable to yourself versus being like, oh, I'll do it this time or this time or this time.
Yeah.
Like I know exactly, I know my 3 tasks. They haven't changed in 2 years because they're working.
Yeah.
I write like an idiot. I write down the 3 tasks. Every morning when I come in here at 8:30, I write down the date. I know what the date is. And I write down the same 3 things every morning for the last 700 days.
I love it.
Even though I know what to do. And then when I'm doing it, if they're not written down, I write them down while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Just so I can scratch it off.
Yeah.
And if they're not down on that piece of paper, I'm like, I freak out.
Yeah.
Because I've gotten to a point now where it's like drinking water or breathing.
Yeah. There's one, I love that, by the way. It's one more thing that I think you know this line that I love to say, and I say it often. So the interested versus committed, I say that a lot, but busy versus productive.
Yeah.
That's another big one. So we can fool ourselves and be busy with things that aren't really productive.
Do you ever tell people the busy to productive thing that they need to get to the office? Like, I'll be busy at my house.
Yeah.
I'm productive here.
Exactly. Well, that's
so I don't work from the home.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
everyone's like, you don't work from the house? I'm like, I know me.
Yeah. No, it depends. Like, I am busy. I'm productive at home. I mean,
So is Sophia. I can't.
But my kids are out of the house.
Mine are out of the house too. I just wander.
It's your ADHD.
When I'm here, I know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to go to the gym and read a book.
Right. Exactly.
When I get to the gym,
Your brain's already telling you.
I've gone somewhere where I need to be.
Your muscles are twitching.
Yeah,
You're ready to go.
I'm prepped.
Yeah. No, it just depends. Everybody's different.
Everybody's different.
But at
For
the end of
me-
the day, we can fool ourselves to think that we're being productive when we're just really busy. And so we're doing things that keep us busy, but they're the easier things and not the hard things. Typically, the things that are the harder things or things that make us uncomfortable are the ones that make us productive. And so we fill our time with the easier things to feel like we're doing the right things. And at the end of the day, that's what I love about the 12-week year. There's no gray area.
Yeah, it's either works or doesn't.
You have your goal. Your plan's either working or not working. You're either executing or you're not executing. There's no gray area.
And then when you look at that and you see you've only done 60, 50, 40% of what you're supposed to do, the only person you can be mad at, it's not the market's fault.
No.
It's not Joe Stacey's fault. It's not your client's fault. It's yours because you didn't do it.
Yeah, and again, another favorite saying of mine is control what you can control.
Yeah, I tell it to my kids all the time.
Yeah, so you can't control the interest rates and the market, all that stuff, but you can control your actions.
Yeah, as an athletic side, that's like
100%.
Yeah.
So what you heard me telling them was, first of all, they're all nailing their plans and they're on pace. But what I cautioned them was that some of the results they're seeing came from maybe week week 1, 2, or 3 activities, right? Because there's a lag in that.
Yeah.
You know, if first meet somebody, it takes a little time. That's why sales is a lag. So, but keep doing the things. But here's the key: the market's now getting busier. There's more business going on, more conversations they have to have, more applications they're taking. You get the point. Well, what they can't do is stop doing what got them busy while they're busy.
That's why you got it. For me, I have to do everything before 9 or 9:30.
That's right.
Because if it gets to 10 a.m.,
I'm
done.
So take the most critical things,
get them done first.
Get them done. You'll find the rest of it. You'll find time to get the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I think those are, and so really, Jay, these are not that complex of principles. They're not that complex in principles. They're really not that complicated. You just have to find the things that matter most, that move the needle the most, get those things done. You'll find time to get everything else done. Have a positive attitude. Feed your mind, feed your body, sleep, recharge your battery. Find time to get away and listen. I work my butt off during the day, but I don't live to work. I work to live. So man, as soon as my work's done, I'm out of here and I'm gonna be with my wife or my kids or my buddies or I've got tons of stuff. I love to laugh and watch stupid movies and all that stuff. So finding that balance of working hard and getting away from it, recharge the battery. It's critical.
I think that also, what you just said about friends and laughing and your wife and your kids, I think that's the long-term approach too, right? That's why you're in the business for 36 years.
Yeah.
That's why I've been in the business for 22 years. I think if you take the other approach, you're just going to hate your life and you'll be like, I want to do something else.
Well, I learned that early on. I mean, when I was, like I said, I was working 80, 90 hours and I first got married, I almost burnt myself out of a marriage.
Yeah.
I was not happy. I was angry. I was stressed out. I was tired. And I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
So then, and then once you have kids, you can't do that. You got to be there for your kids, and that was one thing that I'm most proud of. When I was at the height of my sales, I ate dinner with my kids every night. I was at their sporting events, but then I'd go back to work at night and they just knew that was the deal, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't sell myself to my business at the price of my family or my friends. So as much as on purpose I am with what I do at work, it's the same with me. We were at the Hawks game the other night, which we love going with the kids, and they're retiring Chelio's jersey, I think on the 25th, and I got tickets for the game, and I'm like, hey boys, you want to go? Yep, boom, in the calendar. Lunch before the game, going to the game.
Yeah.
I'm calendared with my family and my friends. Some people are like, well, that's pretty messed up. You have to calendar your family time. It's what I got to do, man. It's okay. There's no shame in that.
If you don't, someone's going to schedule over it.
Yeah, that's it. There's no shame.
I have all my games, practices, Bulls game. Of course you have to. I don't know how you can manage if you don't.
Man, I live off my calendar. It's awesome.
People call me at 10 o'clock, but I'm driving in the AM, and they're like, well, how about this? I'm like, listen, I'm an imbecile without my calendar. I'm like, let me get to I go, I may have a wedding tomorrow I don't even know about. I'm like, God, and I don't know anything. If it's not if it doesn't have what's happening in the next 2 times, the next 2 hours, I don't know what I'm doing tonight. No, but it's in my calendar.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome.
One thing you see the industry, we'll end on this, because I honestly I have 5 other things I could go on tangents for another 5 hours.
I'll come back another time.
Yeah, we'll do it. Have another one. One thing that you see us going to, the industry going to, and that is either positive or negative. And I'm going to interject just on one before you go. My thing is everyone talking about, and not everyone talks about it, but the need for agents. I thought about this in my sleep last night. Don't ask me why. The need for agents.
You got to get a life, by the way.
The need for agents, and because I read something too, it was amazing. The need for agents, Redfin, Zillow, and automating of this, and it's very interesting. And I'll tell you why. Because when I was looking for a car, Carvana, this sounds easy.
Yeah.
Online this, online that. It was a disaster.
Yeah.
I went to the car dealership. I talked to somebody who knew what they were doing. I felt confident in that. And I got the car I wanted.
Yeah.
God knows what I fucking would have got from Carvana.
Yeah.
And I was and I thought in my head, I'm like, if everything was going automated, cars are apples to apples.
Yeah.
A Volkswagen here is the same as there. So it's not even like a house where every house is different. And you still have to go to the dealership and they're still opening up.
Yeah. But the thing is, there's too much but even cars, unless you had one specific car you wanted,
There's too many variables.
there's too many options. There's too much information. There's too many things to consider. So like you get confused and paralyzed. And so really, to answer your question, Jason, I don't think it's going to change.
Ever.
No, I don't, because listen, this is not what they do. It's what we do every single day.
There's just too many variables.
Listen, there's a thing called WebMD. I didn't know if you know that, but like you could type into my elbow words and like, am I going to listen to that? I'm going to a doctor.
I don't know, my wife.
By the way,
my wife's Miss Emma.
well, but shit's crazy. But then then go to the doctor.
we go to the
I don't
doctor.
want to go to the doctor who's got nothing, who's got all availability. I want to go to the doctor I got to wait for like a month and a half to get into him because he's busy.
I may die before I
She's
get
busy, right? I don't know. Well, I mean, if it's urgent, but I mean, like, I want the doctor, like, and also I want the doctor. So I talk about that, like, I look at that as like when you're going on a listing appointment, like, I want to go in, I want to go to a doctor. If I had a problem, and I got to go to the doctor, I want to go to the doctor that sits down, asks me questions, understands me, takes some tests, looks at the tests. That's a consultation, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is what we need to do with buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
That's not going to change. And then I want him or her to assess what my situation is. And then I want them to say this: here's your situation. I do this 100 times a month or 100 times a year. I'll go in there, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. If this happens, we'll go around there, but I'll get this thing, I'll knock it out of you. You'll be up and running in 3 or 4 weeks. You're my doctor.
Yeah.
And by the way, I didn't ask you how much you charge.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit what you charge. You're my doctor.
Yeah.
I don't want the doctor that goes in and says, I don't know, man, I've not seen anything like that before. I think I can go in there and get that. I'm out of there.
Yeah.
I don't care what that doctor charges. That's not my doctor.
Yeah.
I want the doctor who's confident, who's done it a bunch of times. I was watching your little video that you did with Sophia about people, they need to work with an agent who's got experience. I mean, like, experience is critical in this market. I want to fly on an airplane with a pilot who's rested and has experience and who has been trained to navigate any situation that's going to possibly happen with that airplane. That's the plane I want to fly in.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to a tired pilot who's got no training. It is, an experience. Now, again, for agents who are new to the business, that is what it is. They got to learn fast. They got to be students of the market so that when they're in front of a consumer, they're educated and, But anyways, I don't know where I was going off on.
No, I just think that it's just interesting that everyone thinks that I get a ton of phone calls from students from universities actually that are doing papers or doing this and how to navigate the market and like not navigate the market, but automate it and do this and bedrooms, this. And I had somebody that I just read an article about a sports figure, and then I got a phone call, and the person was trying to, Northwestern marketing person you'll get a kick out of this. You'll tell this story. You'll tell this story, and it's really cool. So he's like, it just so happened to coincided with what I read. And he's like, I'm trying to figure this out and trying to automate, build the systems. I said, all right, let me tell you something. He goes, all right. I go, in 1996, there was a 6'6" kid who was 190 pounds with small hands, couldn't jump that well, and had an okay shot. That was his dynamic. There was also a 6'6" kid who was a consensus first team All-American, huge hands, unbelievable jump shot, and could jump out of the gym. I said, think of that as houses. I said, which house are you going to buy?
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to buy the second house. I said, that was Kerry Kittles. Played 6 years in the pros and sucks. First kid was Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, really.
I said, the stats on Kobe Bryant sucked. It was the intangibles that made him who he was. I said, it's the house's position on the block. It's the sun it gets.
Yeah.
It's where it lays to retail. It's the schools. I said, you will never be able to automate housing. I said, because it's the intangibles that make the house, not the bedroom count.
Yeah.
It's the floor plan. And I was like, that's why you'll never work.
Yeah, and also in this market, negotiating contracts and stuff, like there's so many different things to trigger, things you can pull, the levers you can pull. But I will tell you, listen, here's another stat. I mean, I was in the business before the internet, right?
Yeah.
So here's the one stat. So again,
there's no internet.
People thought the internet was going to wipe out real estate agents, automated valuations, all this stuff. It hasn't, right? But here's a stat that's even to today, in this market with low inventory, we have less than 2 months supply of inventory in most markets. The average for sale by owners, The percentage of for sale by owners representative of the total sales is 8%. It has always been, and it always will. So in other words, people can go sell, in this market, they could go sell their house by themselves. And even easier in this market, but yet 8% of them only do.
That's crazy.
So you tell me, why wouldn't that be a bigger number? If the things were going to change, they could go at it on their own.
That would be the number one thing that would change.
Number one, they could change it. They could have changed it for all these years. So this change is not going to be any different. You're going to tell me a buyer knows the market better than we do? Hell no.
No.
They don't know all these things that we could do, like appraisal addendums and gap.
Oh, I had a response from a person on TikTok, and I roasted him. I did a video on it. I said, I will always outperform you. And I put his tag up there. I go, whenever you want to step up, man, I will buy something 10% cheaper than you, and I'll sell it for 10% more.
100%.
Yeah, because you just can't beat me.
No, and that's not cockiness and arrogance. That's confidence. That's confidence. It's fact.
Well, it's fact.
It's fact. Because you do it all the time.
Backed by 2,000
Oh my God,
stuff.
seriously, like you turn people inside out.
Yeah.
Because it's what you do.
Yeah.
So it's like, see, that's it. So like, and that only comes from experience. You have a lot of experience and you could, and that's, at the end of the day, I honestly think there'll be some minor changes to the industry. I think, listen, agents haven't been signing buyer representation agreements. They should be doing that.
Yeah.
They should. By the way, agents aren't doing thorough consultations with buyers. I think that's a disservice to the buyers. So actually, this is not a bad thing. If we raise the level of our service to the buyers like we have to our sellers, you would never go list a house without doing an analysis and a presentation.
I had someone call me without an agent that wanted to see a place, and I made them sign all this paper.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just so you know, I represent the seller,
Yeah,
this.
good.
And they're like, well, I'm like, listen, I said, all I know is that all these pieces of paper come to fruition because someone didn't know that.
Yeah.
And that's why it's here.
Yeah. But we need to raise the level of the game, really, honestly, for the buyers. We need to do buyer consultations, especially in this market. It's so difficult for buyers. They need to know the war they're walking into and all the things that, they're going to have to consider, like, in order to have success in this market. And that doesn't come from just a casual conversation. You need to sit down.
I have an hour and a half one on
Yeah,
Wednesday.
for sure. That's awesome. So I think the point is, to answer your question, I don't think it's changing. I mean, there'll be some minor changes, but I just honestly, I never say never, because forever's a long time, but
I think it'll just get better, but it just can't because the product isn't homogeneous.
and here's one more thing, like the number of agents getting out of our business it's rapid. I mean, which is actually, we need it. It's happening. And so NAR just came out and, it's gonna be one of their lowest enrollments, and agents are retiring. They're like, hey, listen, I'm not going to do this anymore, because there is some cost to this business.
Yeah.
And so that's happening too. So listen, even if the pie is a little smaller now, you're going to be able to take a bigger piece of the pie. It's one thing I always remember Sophia's always told me. In markets like this, when there's less business, the business is down, agents are bumping into walls. They don't know what to do. A good agent's going to go and take a bigger
Our
piece.
biggest jump was 08 to 10.
Yeah, that's right. So
Yeah.
you get a bigger piece of the pie because you're really good at what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm ready. I already did my task, so I'd go do them. Maybe I'll do them again.
See, the difference is I'm going to go home and have a drink. You're going to go out and make some phone calls.
Yeah. I really appreciate it. I think this is just the right way to start the year with this podcast. I'm super excited to have you as our first guest for the year. Joe, if someone wants to get a hold of you, I mean, do you want them to get a hold of you?
Hey, listen, we've got agents outside our company that should probably be at our company, so have them reach out to me.
So Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Chicago.
Yep.
This is if what you heard inspires you, this is what you hear. This is the guy that'll be doing it, and it's awesome. It's very inspiring. It refocuses myself. I always think about conversations that we had whenever I feel a little bit this and that, and just holding myself, accountable to what I know. We all know what we need to do.
Yeah.
We just do. I always say that to my kids. I go, you know what you need to do. Just fucking do it.
Yeah, like, that in the 12-week year there, they talk about Michael Phelps. There was days when Michael Phelps probably didn't want to get in the water. It was cold, He was tired, he was sick, whatever. But he got in the water because it's what he had to do to execute his plan to get to the Olympics and win the gold medals.
Oh, man.
So like we have to have that kind of mentality.
In Michael Phelps, in that quote, he was talking, and I actually said it to my kids.
Yeah.
And he says, it's the days that I didn't want to go into the water.
Yeah.
that made me a champion.
Yeah, that's right.
He's like, not the good days.
Yeah.
Because the good days are easy.
Yeah.
It's the days that I just was like, I don't want to get in the water.
Yeah.
That's what he said. He goes,
Yeah.
and those are the days
Yeah.
that define you.
Yeah, it's in executing your plan. You got to execute. Most people don't, like I said, people don't lack the knowledge. They lack the execution of the knowledge. And that's the key. So it's finding.
That's the frustrating part.
It is. So what are you going to do to hold yourself accountable, or can you have a coach, or can you find someone to be, anyway, accountability could be like you and I could be accountability partners and we could hold each other accountable. And we have agents that do that too. So it doesn't have to be hiring a coach. It could be finding someone else who's driven and hold each other accountable. But when you hold people accountable, hold people accountable.
Yeah.
Call bullshit.
Well, it's like a training partner. When
Yeah.
I was in college. You
Yeah.
had your best list when your buddy was with you yelling in your face.
Yeah. Hold people accountable. Like if that's accountability, and if they're making up excuses are stories. That's bullshit. No, bullshit. You said you're right. I should have done it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Get in, do it. Now call me. Send me a text when you've done your 20 phone calls.
It's like leg day.
That's right. Yeah.
If you can't do legs, you can't do sales.
I love it.
All right. Thanks so much, Joe.
Yeah,
I appreciate
Jason.
it, man.
Thank
It
you
was
so much.
great.
I appreciate you
love
having
it.
me.
Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. You can get the podcast. Well, we're actually opening up a new Instagram account for the podcast because there's so much stuff that we want to start broadcasting. Definitely Apple, Spotify, all that. And thanks so much. And have a great 24 and hold yourself accountable.
Yeah, love it. Cheers.